Behold, a wonderful demonstration of teamwork. It's a combination of animal, machinery, and man in perfect sync. The annual Show and Reunion event at Irricana's Pioneer Acres celebrates the tradition of farming on the prairies. Keeping that team spirit in mind, let's get into gear and head east for about 40 minutes. It's here we discover Heritage Harvest.
Hi, I'm Mark Jabot, an organic grain grower specializing in heritage varieties of wheat. I grew up on a family farm, mixed family farm in the Clooney area, and both my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents grew up in that and farmed in that Clooney and Gleason area. So I come from a long background of a farming family. Actually, I met my wife. She was a glass blower, and that's how I actually got into glass blowing. So that's kind of an interesting take there, but she got me into it, and we've had a very, very successful art career.
Although Mark and Lori still express themselves through art, they have also taken on the adventures of farming.
Definitely growing up on a farm and being exposed to doing repair work and welding and all those kinds of things in the past sure helped me keep this farm running. It wouldn't be possible to do what I do unless I had some skills and some help from other people to keep the equipment running and get it to work efficiently. Being a very small producer, one of the things that I have to rely on is my skills to refurbish and keep running a lot of older equipment. It just from a cost point of view, buying newer equipment for me is just not an option. Because my families have come from farming backgrounds, I've been able to acquire some of their equipment, and some of it was very well kept, and the combines I have are 1968s. They're older Massey 410 combines. I'm the third owner, knowing all the owners. They've spent their entire lives inside a shed, so they've been very well looked after, and they continue to serve me well. I use this tractor for doing kind of the light field work, tine weeding in the spring to take weeds out, running the grain augers, and those kind of light duty chores. Works very well for me. There's no computers on these things, and it's something within the scope of what I can accomplish, the repairing and keep them in good running order. And they were good machines back then, and they still do a good job of what they're meant to do. The grain bins that I have are small hopper bins that came from different farming operations that just aren't big enough for people to be interested in these days, but they work really good for smaller quantities of grains that I grow.
Mark, along with his neighbors Henry and Ray, have pooled resources to grow, mill, and market red fife wheat. You can say red fife is a living artifact and a very important part of Canada's agricultural heritage. It's named after David Fife, the Ontario farmer that first planted the red seeds on Canadian soil back in 1842. It soon became the primary grain supply to prairie homesteaders by the CPR, and even earned us the title of breadbasket to the world.
When we had an opportunity to get into the agriculture business in a small way, we knew that we couldn't kind of compete or run with the bigger conventional farms. It just doesn't work on a small scale. So we looked for that kind of niche market. Long story, but we just stumbled into finding red fife wheat. The distinctive thing about red fife wheat is its taste. That's the comment that I find most often from people is the distinctive kind of nutty flavor. It makes great pancakes and waffles. We grow a couple of different varieties, but mostly we've stuck with two main varieties, red fife wheat, and then another one called Marquis that was developed by Agriculture Canada and was released about 1910. It was the first major cross that Agriculture Canada successfully did that produced another commercially viable grain for the prairies. The mill we imported is a traditional stone ground mill, so it has the stones turn slowly. It doesn't create any heat, and one of the bakers described it as more of a shaving than a grinding. So the bakers can tell the difference in the machinery that mills the flour. The mill it's the smallest commercial mill this company makes. but it's sized so that it's a one-person job, operating the mill, packaging, and doing the final stage of preparing the grain for our bakeries. We're very fortunate to be able to connect with a couple of artisan bakers in the Calgary area, Wild Grain Bakery and Sidewalk Citizen Bakery. Both very nice people that produce an artisan styles of bread, and they both produce specifically products out of red fife wheat.
To help gain exposure and make the connection with the public, Heritage Harvest welcomes Organic Alberta's bus tour. It's an annual event that helps to introduce food producers and businesses to the farming community.
This summer we had two large coaches with about 100 people come to the farm, and everyone got to hear about the farms, taste the products that are produced on the farm, and it was very nice to be able to interact with people mostly from Calgary that don't have the opportunity to actually come to the farm and see how it works and what we do. And people were able to stand in the field where the grain was grown and then walk over and actually taste the flour after it was milled. We've been fortunate to be able to work with the two neighbors to increase our land base so that everybody can be involved in that agricultural component on a small scale. It's worked very well, and it gives us the opportunity to be able to offer a very stable kind of supply to our customers as well. It's a partnership right from the growing the grain with the neighbors to working with our bakers and the other retail outlets. I think it's important for both us as farmers and as for consumers to make that connection with the farmers. It's something that's not normally done in the big mass food industry, and there's been a bit of a disconnect over the last couple of generations of where your food comes from. And it's been a resurgence of people interested to know where it comes from, how it's made, how it's produced, and the issues that we all face in trying to achieve that.
Mark, along with his two adjoining neighbors, are about as passionate about this wheat as David Fife himself. We salute Heritage Harvest for reminding us of the things like tradition and teamwork. Oh yes, and for also giving us back the fresh baked flavor and aroma of days gone by.